Imagine, if you will, a small child approaching you. Now let's say that this child makes a very deep observation about the world, a statement of some profound wisdom. Let me ask you a question. If a child makes such a statement, something that perhaps impresses you, is it any less intelligent or any less wise just because a child was the one to make that statement? Now, while you consider that, I would like to welcome you to Hack Philosophy. My name is Matt, and I will be your Hack Philosopher for today. So let's get back to the question I just asked you about the child with some wisdom, perhaps worthy of being given out. The point I'm trying to make is it is indeed quite possible to get inspiration from unexpected places, like a child making a statement you would only expect from a wizened individual. Now, imagine that I am that child speaking to you right now. I'm not going to tell you the most intelligent thing you've ever heard. In fact, I don't even plan to tell you anything that you don't already know. My goal is to reintroduce concepts you are already familiar with, but to do so from a perspective slightly different from your own, in order to widen your view of the world, if you would. Now, telling you something you already know, but from a different perspective, let me give you an example of that. How many people live on planet Earth? What is the human population? Well, as of right now, the population on Earth is a little over 7 billion people. And that is a huge number, very difficult to wrap the mind around, to be sure. But here's another question. How many people are you? Just one, right? Just one person, no more and no less. You are but one person. Easiest question in the world, right? And no, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I am trying to make a point. Despite the fact that you and I could probably agree that you are one person, no more, no less, and the same is true for me, there are many people in this world that think of themselves as though they are somehow less than one person. People who might feel like they are nothing in the grand scheme of things. People who might feel as though they are zeros in a world full of ones. But you and I both know that the basic math doesn't support that notion, does it? Yet on the other end of the spectrum, there are people who feel as though they are more than just one person. That they are somehow more than this. But the statistics also don't support that view. So how is it that we can have such an easy, mind-numbingly easy observation that you are one person, no more and no less? How is it we can come to that conclusion? Such a simple thing to say, and yet so many people view themselves differently. And more to the point, why is that so important for the rest of us? Now, to take things a step further, if I just walked up to you and told you that you're just one person in a world of 7 billion, you might not find that all that encouraging to hear. You might feel small. You might feel weak. You might feel helpless. And even without me having to say anything like this, there are some people in this world that already feel as though they're helpless, as though they contribute nothing or not enough to the big picture. But what if we looked at the positive end of this? If it's true that you are one person, no more, no less, that same rule applies to me. It's not just you and I. This apparent limitation applies to everyone equally. Right? Consider this. Every family member, every friend, every rival, every lover, every person that you've ever looked up to, every role model that you have ever taken in as a source of your own inspiration, every single person that has ever lived has followed the same restriction as you and I. That same rule that each of us is just one person. But what does that mean in practical terms? Well, it means that people of historical significance, like George Washington, for example, in America, a person who is credited with helping to forge a new and prosperous country. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are also people like Adolf Hitler, and Hitler too was just one person, which would of course make it seem that just one person can be capable of great or terrible things. And maybe they don't achieve these things single-handedly, but it still boils down to the perspective, to the vision of one person. So maybe we should reconsider whether or not there may be more power to one than we would otherwise think. Now, if we go back for a second to the metaphorical child with much wisdom to be spoken of, getting insight from unexpected places, I probably don't have to tell you that I am not an athlete. I do not have the physique to support that kind of lifestyle, and that has never been my mindset. It's never been a strength of mine. So, through people around me, I became aware of a man named Mike Singletary. Now, Mike Singletary would be an unexpected source of wisdom for me personally. He is an American football coach, so not normally the kind of person I go out of my way to listen to. But in this particular case, I'm very glad that I did, and here's the reason why. Mike Singletary has certain strengths as a coach, but he is specifically well known, for his ability to speak with conviction and to connect with people, which is something that I too am interested in. So I went out of my way to listen to one of Mike Singletary's speeches. And so I'm going to try my best to paraphrase Coach Singletary's words, if you will. So consider again the fact that we live in a world of 7 billion people. Coach Singletary asks, how many of those 7 billion people are truly successful at whatever they set out to do? How many of the 7 billion people on this planet are truly satisfied with where they have gotten themselves? Certainly not close to 7 billion, is it? Coach Singletary makes the statement, and one I believe is very relevant to the power of one. Coach Singletary says that most of the people in this world, if they chose, they could work hard to succeed. Most people could put in the effort. Now we have to consider, not everybody has the same skill set. Not everybody has the luxury of knowing their strengths. And some people have an easier time of reaching success than others, sometimes because of their profound skills, sometimes because of circumstances beyond someone's control. But the argument goes that most people have a decent shot at success if they're willing to put in the effort. Yet most people don't. Most people have already in their own minds come to a decision that working hard is hard, and settling for less, checking out, if you would, is easy in comparison. It's much easier to settle for less than you're worth than to actually try to succeed. And so Coach Singletary makes the case that there is something really worthy of consideration here. Most of the people that you have ever met have effectively given up on trying to succeed. When you ask a person what they do for a living, they might give you one answer. But if you ask them what you could do if you had the ability to, what do you want to do? Most people give you one answer for what they do, and they give you something very different. Maybe an entirely different lifetime of choices made of what they would want to do. Now, just because so many other people have made the decision to essentially check out, to give up, to settle for less than they're worth. Just because so many people have made that decision, does that mean that you too also have to make that choice? Of course not. What you choose to do with yourself is your choice and yours alone. But do consider the fact that most other people have given up. And so if we think about the fact that there are some people, an example, Martin Luther King is a person who has had a profound impact on our world, and no one can deny that. And somebody who followed in King's footsteps and made his own impact, Nelson Mandela, a recent example of an individual. When Nelson Mandela passed away, the country of South Africa, his homeland, essentially revered him. That is no exaggeration, because Nelson Mandela accomplished great things, just as Martin Luther King did before him. So we have to consider that there may be much more to the power of one than we otherwise would have thought. If you can discover what it is that you're truly good at, that you also enjoy doing, ultimately, you've already taken the first steps towards not just discovering, but also embracing your power of one. So please consider what we've already discussed today. I plan on making more videos in the same vein as this one, to do so approximately once a week. In the future, I'll explore more specific angles, if you would, about philosophy, but not the kind of philosophy you would find in a textbook. I'm talking about the kind of philosophical ideas that actually apply to your life, to help to enable you to see the world from a wider angle than before, to take in more insight from every opportunity, and to strengthen your resolve and to strengthen you as a person across the spectrum. So please do think about what we've spoken about today, and until next time, my name is Matt, and this has been Hack Philosophy. Thanks for watching.